Hello everyone and welcome to 6.2 notes. Go ahead and throw your name on your note sheet. It is currently not any hour. I'm recording this at home. Write down whatever hour you're in. Okay. 6.2 notes. We are going to start finding zeros of quadratics. So if you guys remember back, or you guys can flip back and look, because you've got your notebooks right in front of you, to your 6.1 notes. We are learning how to graph a quadratic. So if this is my coordinate plane, and I have a U-shaped quadratic on there, we are going to start today finding these 2 points here. These are our zeros. It is where our x value is 0. Just kidding, our y value is 0. Sometimes these are also called our x-intercepts. And sometimes these are also called our solutions. So those three terms are kind of used interchangeably to represent those points where we cross the x-axis. So today we are finding zeros using this method called the square root method. It only works certain times, but when it does work, it's way easier and way faster than methods that we already started learning back in the polynomial unit and that we're going to continue using this unit. So if we can use it, we want to use this method because it's going to be our fastest option. So we use this method when the value of b is 0 and therefore there are only two terms. So what we mean by the value of b being 0 is we normally have f of x equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Let's pretend that b value is 0. That means that b value kind of just doesn't exist. So we've just got the ax squared and the c. So there's only two terms left. We can find the zeros using the square root method with these steps. While we do it, just like with everything we do, we need to show our work. So the first thing that we are going to do is we are going to replace our f of x equals with a 0 equals. So I'm going to go ahead and cross out on this first example here, this f of x equals. And then I am going to set this problem equal to 0. And I'm actually going to set it equal to 0 over here on the right side, just because that's how we're used to solving equations. From here, we can solve this kind of just like a normal equation. We're going to do opposite operations to get x squared by itself. Then, to get rid of the squared on x squared, we are going to square root both sides of the equation. So let's get started on this first example, and then we will come back and talk about this little thing here, which is that we are going to actually have two answers. Because if you look up here, in our quadratic, we had two zeros. Okay, so this first one, we've got 3x squared minus 75. We already set that equal to 0. We are going to start by adding 75 to both sides. We're just trying to get x squared by itself right now. We'll have 3x squared equals 0 plus 75 is 75. Then we will continue getting x squared by itself by dividing that 3 on both sides. And we'll have x squared equals 75 divided by 3 is 25. Okay. Oh, my bad. Here is the new step now, is we need to get rid of that square. The opposite of squaring something is taking the square root of it. So we are going to take the square root of both sides of this equation. The square root and the square on the left side of our equation cancel each other out. So we just have x equals now on the left side. And on the right side, we want to find the square root of 25. So that's us asking ourselves, what number times itself equals 25? And the answer is 5. 5 times 5 is 25. But there is another number that also multiplied by itself equals 25, which is negative 5, because negative times a negative is also positive. So we have two answers for all of these problems. For this first one, my answers would be 5 and negative 5. A shorthand way of writing that is we can use a plus or minus sign, which means that our answer can be both positive or negative. And then our answer is 5. So you can either write x equals 5 and then write x equals negative 5, or you can write x equals plus or minus 5. So shorter way of writing that. So that's that last thing, which is that your answer can be positive or negative. All right, next problem we've got f of x equals negative 2x squared plus 98. Same 3 steps. We are going to get rid of that f of x equals, set this equal to 0. Make sure when you get rid of that f of x equals, you don't get rid of that negative in front of the 2. I almost crossed it off. Then we are going to solve this for x squared. So I'm going to subtract 98 from both sides. I'm going to end up with negative 2x squared equals negative 98. I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. On the left side, those negative 2's cancel. I just have x squared. On the right side, negative 98 divided by negative 2 is positive 49. I am now ready to square root both sides. Ask myself what number times itself equals 49, and that is 7 or negative 7. So x equals plus or minus 7. Okay, now would be a good time to make sure that we know where our square root buttons are in our calculator. I had my calculator open a second ago. Oh, there it is. In our calculator, if we need to square root, the square root button is above the x squared button on the middle of the left side there. So to access that above the x squared button, we have to use the second key. It's kind of like a shift key. So second, hit the x squared button, and the square root's going to pop up. It's like the second function of that key. And if I put in 49, it's going to tell me that the square root of 49 is 7. And I have to be smarter than the calculator and remember that it could also be negative 7. So I've got to put the plus or minus sign in myself. Okay, back to notes. We've got 2 more problems real quick. This one, we can cross off our f of x equals, set it equal to 0. We can add that 20 to both sides. We've got 5x squared equals 0 plus 20, which is 20. Divide both sides by 5. We're going to get x squared equals 20 divided by 5, which is 4. And then we will take the square root of both sides. So square root of both sides of this equation, what number times itself is 4? Plus or minus 2. Okay, as we get better and better at these, as you guys get more practice, you might feel like you don't need to show all your work. What we would like for you guys to show is we would like to show this step, and we would like to show this step, and then obviously our final answer. So you can skip out on showing that like in-between work and that in-between work, but show us your steps. So that way if you do make a goofy mistake, we can figure out which mistake or which step you made it on. Okay, last problem. We've got f of x equals negative x squared plus 169. Cross out my f of x equals, set this equal to 0, subtract that 169. We've got negative x squared equals negative 169. Now I've got a negative x squared. I want to get my x squared by itself, so I need to get rid of that negative. I'm going to put an imaginary 1 here so I can think about how I'm dividing by negative 1. Okay, so then I have positive x squared now equals negative divided by negative is positive, and that's still 169. Take the square root of both sides. We get x equals the square root of 169, the number times itself that is 169, is 13. So plus or minus 13. Okay, that is 6.2 notes. Thank you very much.